Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. You've got something really interesting lined up for you today.
Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, so we're going to be diving into Transnistria,
Oh, yeah.
which most people probably haven't heard of.
Right.
But
It's pretty important right now.
it's a really important region in terms of what's going on with the war in Ukraine.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be using a couple sources to help us kind of figure out what's going on over there. We have a Guardian article and then also some Reddit threads.
Always interesting to see what people are talking about.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at Ukrainian conflict and also for world news.
And a lot of opinions out there.
Yeah. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a better understanding of what's going on in this region and kind of what the implications are for kind of the surrounding areas.
Definitely.
So first of all,
So a little bit of background.
yeah, let's just get everyone kind of oriented.
Yeah. Where is this place?
So Transnistria is this little sliver of land between Moldova and Ukraine.
Tiny little spot.
But it's not just like a normal territory.
Right. It's not just like a region.
Yeah.
It's actually declared independence from Moldova back in the 90s.
Yeah.
When the Soviet Union was collapsing.
Okay.
But the thing is, nobody really recognizes it as a country.
So is it like a country or is it not a country?
It's like this weird political limbo.
So they think they're a country.
They think they are, but officially nobody else agrees.
Gotcha.
And to make things even more interesting,
Oh, there's more.
Transnistria is super tight with Russia.
Oh, really?
They've got like 1,500 Russian troops just chilling there.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a significant presence. And that's kind of important for understanding this whole energy crisis thing that's going down.
Okay, so what is going on with this energy crisis?
So basically, Ukraine decided to cut off Russia's gas pipeline.
Oh, wow. They just cut them off.
Yeah, the agreement they had ran out on Wednesday.
Oh, wow. Very
Very recent. And a lot of European countries were kind of prepared, like Slovakia and Austria. They had some time to figure things out.
right.
But Transnistria, not so much.
Oh, so they got caught in the crossfire.
Totally caught off guard. And it was a strategic move by Ukraine,
Mm.
They're trying to hit Russia where it hurts their wallet.
Oh, so this is like an economic warfare kind of thing?
Exactly. We're talking about potentially $6.5 billion in lost gas revenue for Russia.
Whoa. It's a big chunk of
It's
change.
huge. And Zelensky actually called this one of Moscow's biggest defeats, so they're taking this pretty seriously.
Wow. So I guess Russia's not just going to take that sitting down.
Oh, definitely not. They're already pointing fingers, blaming the U.S., Ukraine, Europe.
Who else is there?
The usual suspects, right? They're saying this is all a scheme to boost the American economy and make Europeans suffer.
Classic blame game.
It's a classic. But we also got to remember that Europe's been trying to get off Russian gas for a while now, especially since the whole Ukraine invasion thing.
Right. Trying to be more independent.
Exactly. Diversifying their energy sources. But in the meantime, Transnistria is kind of left out in the cold, literally.
Ooh, that's got to be rough.
The Guardian article paints a pretty bleak picture.
What do they say?
Industries are shutting down, no heating or hot water. People are huddled in one room with blankets over the windows just trying to stay warm.
Wow, that's rough.
It is. And they're running out of gas fast.
Oh, no. How much time do they have left?
10 days in the north, 20 in the south.
Not a whole lot of time.
Not at all. They even switched their main power plant from gas to coal.
Is that going to work?
It's a temporary fix, but definitely not a long-term solution.
No, I guess not.
And here's where things get interesting. Moldova, the country Transnistria broke away from, is actually trying to help them out.
Oh, really? That's surprising.
Right. Their national gas company, Moldova Gas, is willing to help Transnistria buy gas from other European countries.
So they are getting help.
They are, but there's a catch.
So there's always a catch.
Moldova wants them to pay market prices.
Oh, I bet they're not happy about that.
Not at all. They're used to getting gas for free from Russia.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Huge difference. And then there's this whole dispute about unpaid gas bills.
Oh,
Moldova says Transnistria owes them $8 million.
okay.
Russia claims it's more like $250 million.
Wow. That's a big gap.
That's a massive discrepancy.
Yeah.
And it just makes everything even more complicated for Transnistria.
So they're basically stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Absolutely. You've got this energy crisis, historical tensions, geopolitical power struggles all tangled up together.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's like a slow motion train wreck and nobody knows how to stop it.
And everyone's just blaming each other.
Exactly. You've got all these different narratives about who's at fault.
So who do they think is to blame?
Well, Ukraine says it's all Russia's fault because they started the war.
Makes sense.
They say they had to cut off the gas to stop Russia's war machine.
Yep.
And Russia, of course, blames the U.S., Ukraine, and Europe.
Shocker.
They claim it's all a big conspiracy to weaken them.
Right.
And then you've got Transnistria feeling abandoned and betrayed, probably blaming both Moldova and Ukraine.
Everyone's pointing fingers.
It's a blame game extravaganza.
Oh, man, this is messy.
It's incredibly complicated. But it's important to understand all these different perspectives.
Right, not to take sides, but just to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. This whole energy crisis in Transnistria just shows how the war in Ukraine is affecting everything.
Yeah, it's having ripple effects all over the place.
Big time. It's messing with energy dynamics all over Europe.
And with Transnistria losing their cheap gas from Russia, what's going to happen to their relationship with Russia?
That's the million-dollar question. Will they be forced to turn towards Moldova and Europe?
Or will they stick with Russia?
And if they do, what will that mean for the region?
So many questions.
Lots to unpack.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to delve into that in the next part of this deep dive.
We will.
All right, so let's jump into those Reddit threads.
Yeah, let's see what people are saying.
Because, it's always interesting to see kind of the public reaction to these things, and especially on Reddit, it gets pretty
Oh, yeah, very unfiltered.
unfiltered. Yeah,
Raw emotions.
yeah.
You see it all.
So in the Ukrainian conflict subreddit, there's definitely this sense of like, you reap what you sow,
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people are pointing out that Transnistria had plenty of time to prepare.
Right. They saw what was happening with the rest of Europe,
Exactly, and they chose to stick with Russia.
and now they're paying the price.
I mean, one comment that really stood out to me was like, had years of seeing that coming, and time to reorientate. No fucks given.
Harsh, but
Yeah, but it kind of sums up the feeling in that community.
yeah, I guess there's a lot of frustration and like, you're just tired of.
Tired of the whole situation, tired of Russia, tired of people not taking responsibility for their actions.
Right. And Transnistria kind of seems like they're not taking responsibility.
It's like they're playing the victim, even though they had every chance to avoid this.
But it's not all negativity, though, right? There are also some people who are showing concern for the ordinary people in Transnistria.
Yeah, there's definitely some empathy there. Like one comment said, gosh, if only there had been some kind of warning. Yes, fucking obviously. But, it's sarcasm, but it also shows that they understand that the people are suffering.
Right. It's not their fault that their leaders made bad decisions.
Exactly. It's the leadership that's to blame.
So they're angry at the government, but they still feel bad for the people.
Yeah, it's a complex situation.
And over in the World News subreddit, it's a little bit different.
How so?
Well, there's a lot more focus on Transnistria's identity.
Yeah.
Like, what does it even mean to be Transnistrian?
Right, because they're not really a recognized country.
Exactly. So it's like this weird in-between state.
One comment compared Transnistria to a Soviet theme park.
Uh-huh. That's a good one.
Like they're frozen in time, stuck in this Soviet mentality.
Yeah, and completely dependent on Russia.
And there was this one comment that was really provocative. It said, there are no Transnistrians. There is no Transnistria. There's a bunch of Russians in Moldova trying to destroy Moldova with the backing of Moscow.
Wow. That's pretty extreme.
It is, but it shows you the level of mistrust and anxiety that exists.
Yeah, some people see Transnistria as a threat.
A direct threat to Moldova and to the stability of the region.
So it's not just about the energy crisis. It's about all this historical baggage.
Absolutely. It's about identity politics. It's about the legacy of the Soviet Union. It's about Russia's influence in the region.
It's a lot.
It is.
And then there's also this whole debate about the impact on Europe.
Right, because Russia's been saying that Europe is going to suffer because of this.
Like they're shooting themselves in the foot.
But some people in Europe are actually pushing back against that narrative.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're saying that they've diversified their energy sources enough that they're not really that dependent on Russia anymore.
So they're not worried.
Not really. One commenter even said that this is actually going to hurt Russia more than Europe.
Interesting.
Yeah, they said something like, this is the destruction of Russia's grand strategic position in action, and those sales are likely never coming back. It's a massive, permanent blow to the Russian economy.
Wow. So they're actually seeing this as a win for Europe.
Oh, a strategic victory.
While Russia is losing its grip.
Exactly. They're losing their leverage.
So it's kind of like a power shift.
It could be. It's definitely shaking things up.
But in the midst of all this geopolitical stuff, it's easy to forget about the human cost.
You're absolutely right. We can't lose sight of the fact that real people are being affected by this.
Yeah, those Reddit threads are a good reminder. of that, with all the anger and the frustration, there's also a lot of concern for the people who are struggling.
People are worried about their families, their jobs, their future.
And they're the ones who are going to suffer the most.
Unfortunately, that's often the case in these situations.
So what happens next for Transnistria?
That's the big question.
They've lost their cheap gas from Russia. Their future is uncertain. It's a real turning point for them.
It is. Are they going to try to integrate with Moldova and Europe, or are they going to double down on their relationship with Russia?
And what are the implications of each path?
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
So join us as we try to make sense of what the future holds for Transnistria.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about the history. We've looked at those Reddit threads and kind of seen how people are feeling about this whole thing.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
But the big question is, what now? What happens to Transnistria?
Right. Where do they go from here?
Because it seems like they're at a crossroads.
Their anchor to Russia is gone.
Yeah.
And they need to figure out a new direction.
So what are their options?
Well, they could try to mend fences with Moldova and Europe.
So like a reconciliation kind of thing.
Exactly.
But that seems like a long shot.
It would be a huge shift for them.
I mean, they'd have to swallow their pride.
Right. Admit they were wrong about Russia.
Agree to pay market prices for gas.
Which they're not used to.
And basically start integrating with the Moldovan economy.
Which they've been resisting for years.
So it seems unlikely.
It would be a tough pill to swallow.
But is it impossible?
I wouldn't say impossible.
Okay, so what would it take for this to happen?
Well, for starters, Moldova would have to be willing to play ball.
Right. They'd have to show some good faith.
Exactly. Offer some economic assistance.
Help them out a bit.
Address some of their concerns.
Make them feel like they're not being completely abandoned.
Exactly.
And what about Europe? Could they do anything?
Oh, absolutely.
They could offer financial aid.
Sweeten the deal.
Provide technical expertise.
Help them modernize their energy infrastructure.
Right.
Make them less reliant on Russia.
Exactly.
And maybe even create some pathways for closer economic ties.
So they feel like they're part of the European family.
Yeah, make them feel included.
That would be a big step.
But let's be realistic here.
What if this whole thing backfires?
What do you mean?
What if instead of moving closer to Europe, Transnistria just becomes even more dependent on Russia?
Yes, the other side of the coin.
Because Russia's not just going to sit back and let this happen.
No, they're going to fight for their influence.
And they're pretty good at exploiting these kinds of situations.
They're masters of propaganda.
Yeah, they could easily spin this to their advantage.
Paint themselves as the saviors.
The only ones who can really help Transnistria.
And they could offer financial assistance.
Bail them out of this mess.
Maybe even increase their military presence.
Oh, that's not good.
No, that could lead to more instability.
And potentially even conflict.
Exactly.
So what would trigger that kind of scenario?
Well, if Russia senses that Transnistria is seriously considering aligning with Europe,
They might try to sabotage that.
or if Moldova or Ukraine tries to take advantage of the situation,
Exert more control over Transnistria
Russia might see that as a threat.
and respond with force.
It's a delicate balance.
So we've got these two paths,
Integration with Europe.
or deeper ties with Russia.
Which way will they go?
What do you think it comes down to?
Well, I think it depends on a few things.
Like what?
First of all, what will Russia do?
Will they try to be conciliatory?
Or will they double down on their aggression?
And what about Moldova?
Will they offer genuine support?
Or will they try to exploit the situation? And what role will Ukraine play?
Will they be constructive, or will they make things worse?
And of course, what will Europe do?
Will they step up and offer real help?
Or will they just stand on the sidelines?
It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it's complicated.
But I think the most important factor is Transnistria itself.
What do you mean?
Can they see a future beyond Russia?
That's a good question.
Can they let go of the past
Embrace change.
and chart a new course?
It's a big challenge
But it's also a huge opportunity
to break free from their dependence on Russia.
and build a more prosperous future for themselves.
So that's it for our deep dive into Transnistria.
We've covered a lot,
It's a complex situation
but hopefully now you have a better understanding of what's going on
and the challenges that this region is facing.
and the potential consequences for the wider world.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive,
It's been a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.